Hey everybody, and welcome to the library. My name is Emily, and today I have a few book recommendations just for you. These are classical books, and some of them are books that have been made into a film. So, are you ready to get started? First off, Black Beauty. Now this is a simplified version of a very classical book. Black Beauty is a horse who has owners who are, some are poor, some are rich, some are cruel, and some are kind. But in order to know what happens to Black Beauty, you'll just have to read the book and see what happens. Does Black Beauty find happiness in the end or not? Now, do you like a spooky story? If the answer is yes, I recommend Tales of Edgar Allan Poe. This book has altogether 5 different short stories written by Edgar Allan Poe. The stories are quite brutal, quite nasty, and I do recommend them to everyone who likes a little bit of thrills and chills. And as you can see, the book has beautiful illustration as well. Now on to a different kind of a classic. There's Grimm's Fairy Tales. Brothers Grimm's had a lot of fairy tales in their time, and you will probably have heard a lot of them. But have you really truly ever read all of them? And have you read the original versions? That sometimes could be brutal and all bloody. If the answer is no, but you'd like to read them, this is the book for you. As you can see, it is a thick book, but the stories themselves are pretty short, so you can always nitpick and just read a few at a time. Now on to something quite different. There's Pax, which means peace. In this book, a fox and a boy are separated because of the war. The boy has to leave his pet fox in the middle of the woods because he has to move in with his grandpa. The question is, does the fox and the boy find each other at the end or not? If you want to know, pick this book and find out. A different kind of a dilemma you can find in Divergent. There's also movies made from these books, as I'm sure most of you know. Not to spoil too much, but in this world, we live in Chicago after a huge war. There's 5 factions, one of them Dauntless, the faction of the brave, and our main character, who is Divergent. She could choose any faction she wanted, but she goes with Dauntless, the brave ones. If you want to know what happens, pick this book. And also, why not watch the movie as well? Speaking of watching movies, today's book recommendation is also Harry Potter and the Philosopher's Stone. Now, most of you probably have heard of Harry Potter. Most of you have probably at least seen 1 or 2 movies, but I do recommend that you also read them in English. Read the books. And if the language feels a little bit too difficult, you can always take the Finnish translation and read them side by side. So, why not? Have a little bit of magic in your life. Another kind of magical book is Roald Dahl's Matilda. This book also has been made into a movie in the 90s. Matilda is a little girl who loves reading books and loves knowledge. Unfortunately, her family does not. But after a long wait, Matilda at last gets to start school. But lo and behold, the principal is very strict and she hates kids. But Matilda, as it turns out, has magical powers, and she isn't afraid to use them. So, if you want to know what happens to Matilda, pick this one. And the last but not least is, as Roald Dahl's books are pretty funny and anarchistic, so is Alice's Adventures in Wonderland. A long-time classic book of Alice who falls into a very bizarre and weird world. If you want to know what happens, you should definitely read this book. There's also many movies made from this book in recent years. I do recommend watching those as well. Now, the language can be a little difficult. It's full of riddles and it's quite funny. But, once again, you can always pick the Finnish translation and read them side by side. So, why not take a challenge and see where Alice takes you? Well, this is for me for today. Thank you for listening and welcome to the library. Bye!